And I am now recording. It's like I was saying to Susanna a little earlier. Get my camera here going as well. I will leave this in the chat so that way if there's anything that's missed, you can just go back to it. Let's go ahead and get to prayer. Father, we come before you in the mighty name of Yeshua HaMashiach, as you are great and greatly to be praised, as we come into your gates with thanksgiving and into your courts with praise. We bless this time of learning about your kingdom economics. We will not be hindered or checked by any outside forces. And we put a stop to any astral projection or attempts into this call. And Father, we ask that you bring your spirit, Ruach HaKodesh, into this place for your presence to emanate exponentially. We pray this all in your mighty name, Yeshua HaMashiach. Aleph Tav. I'm going to go ahead and, all right, you are now all able to unmute yourselves. I wanted to keep it muted just for the beginning, but since you all have received the text message, any kind of disruptions more than once, automatic removal. Don't want to be disrupting everybody's time. I want to be respectful of everybody. I do, from my experience, have 37 plus years of hands-on training experience through legacy wealth, estate planning, asset protection, management consulting, knowledge management, leadership development, knowledge management consulting, economic consulting, podcast marketing, leadership developments, and hospitality. If I repeated myself there, I'm just trying to remember those off the top of my head, so bear with me. But any questions that any of you do have, feel free to let me know. We'll definitely cover it. We're going to cover 5 different topics, which is portfolio, asset protection, business skills, and relationships. We'll do our best to keep it in the context of that topic, and we'll do it for 10 minutes each. There's enough time at the end. We'll definitely go over any other questions towards economics or anything related to that. Definitely bring that in. Before we get started though, any generic or basic questions any of you have?
Nope, okay.
Okay.
No.
Cool. At the last 5 to 10 minutes, I will cut us off because I have 7 points I do want to cover before we actually head off. For now, let's go ahead and get into it because we're going to have some demonstrations going on. That way you have a simplistic approach as to what each is really meaning. I will call on volunteers, or if you would like to volunteer, you can definitely come out first. But that means if I'm getting one of you as a volunteer, Lauren, in one of the demonstrations, you may need to show a visual. For example, with the portfolio, let's choose, who would like to go first? No one? Okay, I'm going to choose someone. All right, so let's go with Lauren. All right, Lauren. Are you there? Okay, perfect. So, do you have a pen and paper in front of you?
I have my laptop.
Okay. So for this demonstration, I would need you to draw a circle. Doesn't have to be a perfect circle, just any circle really.
Okay.
And you're just going to put in 7 different sections, like a pie. So you're going to make it like a pie. And when you got that done, I want you to show. Now, while Lauren's drawing that, Susanna, Heather, why would I be having Lauren draw a pie?
Hold on a second. I need to get a notebook. I was trying to just take written notes.
Maybe
Okay, no worries.
maybe that you have different areas in your life.
Yeah, on a broad perspective, yeah.
All right, how many?
So just
Just
7,
five?
7, just to make it stand out. I'm not saying like this is going to be, you have to have 7 different pies in your little circle. It's just as an example here. Heather, do you have any guesses as to what this would be? I don't think it can hear you, Heather, because your microphone's muted. So you might want to. Oh, you can't? No? Okay. No worries. All right, so then at least you can tag along. That's okay. So, all right, perfect. So this is a portfolio, a just generic portfolio. That's why I was having you draw that, Lauren. And when it comes to a portfolio, can anyone tell me what a portfolio would be like?
I mean, I know in like my field, what I do, my portfolio is like all the websites I've ever built, all the graphic design work I've ever done, the clients I've ever worked with. Yeah.
Anyone else? That's good there, Lauren. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else want to take a guess? No? Okay, well, no worries. The portfolio, like what you were discussing a little bit there, Lauren, yeah, you are able to add that, but the point of the portfolio is actually on the basis of your assets and what you're growing financially, which can be websites that you have as assets, which would be SaaS. You could also add in things like collectibles. So the wealthy people, they don't do things in a way that's just like, oh yeah, the stocks, bonds, ETFs. Sure, they might have some of that, but they're going to be diverse. Or you have like Tony Robbins with his book Money, and so there's another one that was a much shorter one, but it was mainly on like stocks, bonds, ETFs. That's great, but that's not an entire portfolio. The wealthy have, like I said, collectibles, could be stocks, can be insurance, could be business, could be a whole host of things, but it doesn't have to be a lot. It's very generic in each section, and those generic sections will have those specific asset classes. Like for example, if they have like real estate, that could be anywhere like from multifamily to land, like uncultivated land, because there's all types of land, to luxury mansions, commercial. there's that. You could also have precious metals as another. You have coins and currency, meaning you collect coins and currency throughout history. There's books, stamps, luxury handbags. There's a whole host of things. It does not mean you have to go out and buy something super expensive. There's actually companies, for example, that are starting to give stock into a piece of art that would be too expensive to buy for most people, that they just have a portion of it. And so their stock in that art will then go up. Or with wine, they're doing the same thing, having stock in wine. It's very broad. It's on the basis of what you prefer. And it is going to be on the basis of what you are doing personally, as much as what you and your family are doing, and as much as what you and your inner circle are doing. In here is where you're going to build your compound interest. Now, anybody that does have questions in portfolio, again, don't hesitate to ask. I want to make sure that if there's something that you've been wanting to know for quite some time, I'll definitely share it, because the information I'm providing is what you would get at a family office that they keep from the public. All right, so one asset I will definitely cover is going to be insurance. So I used to sell life and health insurance here in the States. So I know you, Susanna, here in Europe. The licensing is going to be a little different, but the same concept. However, the only good insurance that's out there when it comes to life insurance is going to be IULs, corporate IULs, or PPLIs, which are private placement life insurance policies. Now, unless anyone here has the availability of between 1 to 5 million in the next 3 to 5 years to invest into the policy right off the bat, it's not exactly the go-to for everybody. But when you are able to get to that point, the whole reason is because the wealthy, they have their offshore accounts with their offshore trusts, because they then borrow against the cash value in their PPLI, as the sole purpose of the PPLI is alternative investing. So they never have to go to a bank, never have to go to investors. They already have that insurance company that set up that policy for them, where they've already paid the premiums over those years. The same thing is going to apply for an IUL, which is an index universal life policy, or a corporate index universal life policy. Now, as a disclaimer, I am saying these things because I used to sell life and health insurance, but I will not recommend or suggest anything of a financial service, anything with legal matters, tax accounting, because I'm not licensed in those areas. So I'm leaving that disclaimer for everybody to know why I'm able to speak on this and why I will not speak on those other points. But an IUL or a corporate IUL, preferably the corporate IUL, which has more tax breaks, is connected to the stock market. And it does not have to be specifically connected to the U.S. stock market. It could be any stock market in the world if that insurance company is connected to those stock market exchanges. And the great thing is, if you don't know what a ceiling and a floor is, ceiling is the top of the stock, floor is the last points, the bottom stock was at. The IUL or corporate IUL will only stagnate or go up in value with a 6 to 22% year-over-year average. When you have enough cash value in the policy, you can then borrow against it. This is where you can use that to then acquire assets. The other way, if you don't want to go the insurance route, you then bring on angel investors or equity investors, not debt. Okay, this is kingdom economics. Kingdom economics does not use debt. Debt is a part of the enemy system. It's Babylonian. We're not here to live in the Babylonian system. We're here to live in God's kingdom, which is absolutely 100% debt-free. So that's why when I say the only time to borrow would be against your own IUL policy. Other than that, bring on investors. And that's something we can definitely cover on a future call. But any last questions before we go into asset protection?
No, I think I'm good.
Heather? Good, okay. Susanna?
Are you saying that we shouldn't get life insurance?
It's up to you. You can choose to get it yourself, but I recommend only an IUL, or when you have a business, getting a corporate IUL. And the reason why is because then you will put inflation riders. So there were things as riders in policies for all life insurance policies. It's an additional premium, but adding on inflation riders is so that way when a currency hyperinflates, even though the value of that policy will devalue, you can still cash out, whereas every other policy cannot, because it does not have those riders. And this is historically accurate.
Oh, okay.
So if you're thinking about one, just reach out to the insurance broker that you trust. Talk to them about what's a benefit for you and what you're looking into for IULs. It might be called something different in your country. Where are you abouts in Europe? Which country?
I'm in Sweden.
Sweden? Okay, yeah. So with your insurance broker, again, I'm not sure if they call it an index universal life policy, but it will be a similar policy. So you just have to talk to them about that. And they'll give you your options and say, hey, here's who I recommend to go with this company because they have these benefits and you want to do these riders. So they'll help you out there.
Thank you. I was just talking about insurance with my husband. That's why I asked.
Okay. Do you and your husband have any children or plan to have any children?
We have 2 children.
2 children, perfect. So what you're able to do, I don't know how trust law works in many of the European countries. It really does vary. But what you would do is you would have it set up in a legal vehicle or a trust instrument, some type of legal instrument that avoids taxation. So there's tax evasion and tax avoidance. And I'll get to that with asset protection.
This is tax paradise. We have taxes for everything. It's hard not to. They tax you for everything.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And that's why we'll talk about asset protection, how you actually avoid taxation there. And so when it comes to the benefit, this is what I was getting to on the point for a beneficiary. The insurance will need you to have beneficiaries. So you would name your children, but what I was getting to is adding in a legal entity, a legal instrument like a trust or any other type that has tax benefits, tax breaks. So that way you're avoiding court or whatever hostile attempts from other family members, whatever the case may be. It gets passed on to your children. That way, whatever is built up in that policy gets passed on to them. The great thing is that if you were to borrow against it when you have enough cash value, you could then have those assets attached to your estate, pass that on to your children as well, which would have that inclusion say like, hey, even though we created this policy for you guys way back when, even though it's a reduced amount, we did it because we got these assets. And so these are going to be yours at this time. Does that make sense?
Yes, it's actually illegal not to leave something for your children. You have to leave something. But this is something we need to look into, because we have forest, we have land also.
Yeah, that's something I know of, that when it comes to land and property in Europe, usually you're pretty good on not getting taxed for that, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yeah, we are planning to sell one of the forests, but the taxes are so high that we're practically not getting a lot. We're not getting it. They're gonna tax us 30%, and later on we have to have another taxation for taxes for something else, and so we are not left with so much. It's really hard because it's ours, but we cannot but the value of it, it's for the government, not for us.
Girl, that's like the United States, hon. We ain't got nothing to our names for sure. So
Yeah, even though we have titles here in the United States, unless you get the land patent, there's three titles: land patent, land grant, or allodial title. It's usually the same thing. Once you have that, you have full ownership where you don't pay tax on that. But if you don't acquire that, or if that is not available and you have the title, yeah, you're paying tax on that.
you're paying rent pretty much for land still.
But that's why what you were talking about, Susanna, and what you're also talking about, Lauren, comes into asset protection. Okay, asset protection and the way that legal structures are done is to ensure that not only are you keeping hostile intention from others coming into what you have and taking that, but also avoiding taxation, not evading. So I know terminology is going to be different in Europe on the basis of the origin of that constitution. Like, for example, a woman whose name is Angelica, she's in my network, and she's Dutch. So their constitution is French based. So that's how they're following suit into that. But the asset protection structure is going to be different for each country with that being set up, which then gives you the ability to transfer things around that you normally couldn't under your name. That's why wealthy people, if they do business in another country, they'll have an offshore company. That takes time to get there. Now, I'm not familiar in the US, or excuse me, in other countries, but in the US, there is a structure you're able to put together where you pay 0% tax and you have that established with the IRS. And that is having a foreign express trust where you don't have to have an offshore trust. And so that's why when it comes to other countries, you'd have to speak a little bit more to those who know the constitutional effects of your country as much as the asset protection in Europe. But there's numerous ways to go about it. But usually there's having a joint venture, having a limited partnership, having a corporation. In the United States, you have the choice of C Corp or S Corp. It's a tax status thing. But you also have LLCs, trusts, and sole proprietorship. It's somewhat equivalent in Europe. Just a few differences here and there. That's all. But when it comes to transferring assets, that's going to be done with estate planning. Not on the basis of doing any kind of business, but asset protection is still on the basis of estate planning. I'm going to give you an example here real quick. So that way you know what I'm talking about for asset protection. All right, so let's go ahead and flip this. All right, so here, all right, 3 glasses. Y'all see, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So You see I have one with water, and I have two without water.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the best way to show you asset protection, this is your holding company. This is another company that you're using as another asset protection tool that you're putting in here. Now you have your other asset protection tool in there, because now you have your holding company holding the other structures. Why? This is what's called in a trust segregation. Now, that's for the United States. It could be a different term in other countries, but segregation means that you have separate instruments that are all connected to the same holding company. That's the asset protection structure. Now, what you could do, pour a little more in there, you could transfer. You're not getting taxed. Why? Because you're putting it into another instrument. You're like, all right, I'm just going to put that in there real quick. But you know what? I don't think that's a good idea right away. Let me go ahead and just transfer it here to my holding company, so that way nobody knows I'm doing this. And let me just go ahead and go right back into this other company, because, you know, I needed to make a profit real quick. But let me go ahead and just, I want to cash out. So here's what we're going to do. I want to cash out, but, oh crap. Oh, well, what did I just do? No. Okay, that was, I meant to do that, okay? It's not because I was being messy and I dropped it. The reason why I did that is because when you make a mistake like that, now I have less water. The whole reason is because when you make a mistake and you don't transfer it properly back in, you are getting taxed. You just got taxed. This is going down the drain. You lost out on that. That's not good. And it's like, oh, great. Well, so now, like, well, what's the point? Just dump the rest of the water out. Well, that's not a good idea either. Okay. So now you have your entities. They're all useless because you just dumped everything out. Well, that's what happens when you don't transfer things around in the proper structure. You get taxed and you get your assets destroyed. That's why it's extremely important to have it done the right way, so that way you do avoid it. And the great thing is, when it comes to avoiding taxation, is just setting up bank accounts in other countries. Some countries will allow you to open up a virtual one without you being present there. It just depends on which country you want to go with. Sometimes it's cheap, sometimes it's not. But the great thing when it comes to asset protection is the fact that, let's say, Susanna, you want to open up one here in the U.S. It would be a foreign entity. And you want to create a foreign trust. Well, you don't have to go to the trust department. What you're able to do is have a trust with a bank account. Just like a corporation or any other entity, even for estate planning purposes, you need at least 2 or more individuals. So that way you don't trigger certain things with legalities. But the whole reason you want to avoid trust departments with banks, because they usually work with people that are 7 figures plus, sometimes 6 figures. There's also trustee companies where they want to work with people that are 6 or 7 figures. But a lot of people don't realize, when you have the knowledge and you're able to apply the tools, you don't need to be at that level to open up bank accounts for them. You can literally just open up bank accounts for anonymous companies. Now, it's not to say it can be fully anonymous with your entities, because, for example, the enemy using the U.S. saying, we have anti-money laundering rules. You can't do this. We need to know who you are. And so they're trying to get it to the point where they want to know who everybody is involved in every single company, even foreign companies. It's like, yeah, you're trying to find out everything and take over. So that's why some countries are still friendly. Like Cook Islands has best asset protection trust case law. When it comes to 0% tax on a more public basis, you have places like Dubai, other places throughout the UAE. You have Oman, you have Yemen. You also have Vanuatu. Vanuatu isn't exactly the best place, but it is where you can have 0% tax. But any other questions before we go on to the next point, which is business? So any questions on asset protection from anybody? I know Heather can't really speak, but just want to make sure if you at least have something there. You can always ask me questions too afterward, Heather. About you, Susanna or Lauren, any questions with asset protection?
No, I'm good.
No, thank you. No, nothing.
Okay. Now with business, Susanna, I'm going to have you draw a container ship. And then you're going to have horizontally on there 4 freights. It doesn't have to be perfect, just a container ship, you know, the big ships that transport for logistic purposes, for supply chain. Just something simple as that. And put
Testing
4.
our art skills today.
What's that?
Testing our art skills today.
I can't draw to even save my life. I'm sorry.
Don't worry about it. Okay, no one's here to judge anybody. We're not here. This isn't art school. These are just demonstrations.
You want me to draw a what?
All right. So you know what a container ship is? The big freight ships.
Oh,
You can just draw like a rectangle, then like a straight line, a horizontal line after that. Put some waves next to it. Just something simple like that. And Lauren and Heather, you can draw one as well. Don't worry, no one's judging you, Susanna. All right, no one's gonna judge you at all.
No, I'm sorry. It's no.
Don't worry about it. No one's judging you.
I don't
Never
think
do.
if I don't
if you
think
feel that bad, don't worry. I'll call on Lauren.
Okay. Thank you, Lauren.
Hey, I have no problem taking one for the team. There you go.
All right, just something super simple. So let's see. All right, yep, there you go. All right, yeah, super simple. Didn't have to be complex. Could be like that. All right, now what you want to do is have for the engine, which is that big stack, that rectangular section where the captain is at, with the letter V. And for each container, as it horizontally, we're going to have 4 other letters. You're going to have the letter I, so you're going to capitalize all these letters. So capital letter V, I, T, A, L. Everybody, I want you to write out vital. Got it, Heather? Thought I saw you pull it up. There we go. Yep, I see that.
Love it.
Perfect.
Great job. Great job.
All right. All right. Everybody have at least a little something drawn out with the acronym VITAL?
Yes.
Cool. Got it? Perfect. All right. Now, vital, this is an acronym I came up with. Just as you have vitals when going to the doctor that need to be regularly checked. I had not checked mine in, I don't even remember the last time. But I still used vital. Why? Because V is for value, I is for infrastructure, T is for team, A is for acquisition, L is for leverage. Because you are checking on the vitals of your business. Just like you have to check on the vitals of your physical body's health, you need to check on the vital of your business. When not checking on the vital of your business is why you're not going to move anywhere. Now for each section.
Can you say them again one more time?
Yeah. So V is for value.
Mm-hmm.
I is for infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
T is for team.
Okay.
A is acquisition. L is leverage.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, when it comes to value, this is going to be things like your value proposition, client targeting, positioning of your business. The infrastructure, that's going to be things like operations, systems, technology, asset protection. It's the foundation. If you have a wobbly infrastructure, you're going to have a wobbly business. For team, it's leadership, culture, management, internal alignment. Acquisition, when it comes to business, a lot of people understand it's on the basis of marketing and your deal process, your sales channels, that kind of thing. Leverage, a lot of people don't realize that it's more than just your financial health. It's also resource allocation and the growth of the company. If you're not acquiring competitors, you're not acquiring additional assets, that's why you won't grow in business. Not saying that you just want to go out and do that with no wisdom. That's dumb. That's foolish work. Of course, you need to make sure having the proper skills, but acquiring more assets is what helps expand a business. Gaining more team members when you have more sales coming in. Having the right POS system, which is point of system. I don't know why they call it POS system. But that's what they call it. Or any kind of IT security. A pitch deck is something that's also needed when presenting to clients. When starting a new business, you don't need a pitch deck as much. You can have one. It's good. But if you're raising capital, you don't need financials as much in your pitch deck. You have more what's called a PPM, which is just private placement memorandum. That's for raising capital stuff. However, when it comes to business and making sure you're flowing well and being balanced, there are a couple of acronyms from an attorney that I learned from that he has applied that I found works well. And there's what's called CPR and CDE. So CPR means context, purpose, results. CDE is clarity, detachment, equilibrium.
And what was the last one?
Equilibrium, for the letter E.
And CPR, what's the P?
P is purpose. How's everybody so far?
Good.
Good? Okay. So when it comes to context, purpose, and results, This is when you need to remember something on a logical basis of what you're going after. So context is usually 3 words that's clarifying, detaching you from the situation, putting you into that state of equilibrium. Purpose, it's just a short, detailed paragraph, why you're doing what you're doing. Results, this is where you're having a practical and pragmatic approach to what you're achieving. So that way you know exactly how you're doing it. You know, that's why scripture is clear. Faith without works is dead. Clarity, obviously, it's just what you want the end result to be like. And you can, from the CPR and the CDE, this can be for something for your entire life as much as something for a current project you're doing. So it can be a multi-purpose use. Detachment is don't use the same path to achieve the result you want to achieve. Not every path that you take is going to achieve the result you want to achieve. That if you continue that same path might not be the end result you want to achieve and would be something that you don't want. I've learned that the hard way. Before knowing about this though. But equilibrium, it's just balancing yourself. Going through meditation, praying, reading scripture, fasting, worshiping, making sure you have that internal foundation and flowing with that. Sometimes you can't do all that in the moment, but finding something that helps balance you out so you become clarified and detached from the situation, so you or more so the outcome, so you're not following that situation and that path you want to keep going down. The last thing before going on to skills and relationships, you always want to project in your business, you don't want to budget. The only time you budget is when you are starting out small and you need to track your numbers, and that's good, but that's where you'll stay as a small business. When you want to grow, you need to project your financials, your financial health. Meaning that's why you have salespeople when you do get salespeople on, or when you're doing the sales. But there's nothing wrong with budgeting. Especially when you're in a tight season, you definitely need to budget. When you see you can't project and you need a budget, that's why you want to do that. So it's always a balance there too. So it's not saying don't budget at all. You also want to be discerning and having wisdom when to apply certain things. Any questions though towards business before we do skills and relationships?
About detachment, I understand that that if you don't, you said that if you don't take the same path, if you don't want to get to the same place that you don't want to get to, if I understood you right. But what if you don't have another choice?
Sometimes then you need to go to God for him to show you the choice you need to go through. That's when it comes to that point. Because sometimes when we see we have, okay, I actually had a dream about this.
Okay.
Where it was, so I'm not like in a relationship with anybody, but in the dream I was dating this woman and we were in a restaurant and changing to going to another restaurant and we went on top of the roof, we were enjoying each other's company, and all of a sudden we were attacked. So, I had to take her by the arm, we're running out, and it came to this narrow pathway, and there was only 2 options. And soldiers were coming from both sides. I'm like, we're gonna die here. And for some reason, I found this door. I took her and I through the door, closed it, and we hugged, cried, and kissed each other. We're like, we're safe here. It's because just because we don't see there's a way out, it doesn't mean God does not have a way out for us in that situation. God will always, without a doubt, give us a way out. So just because we don't see it, always go to God for it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
'Cause I know what you mean. By even my own life right now, it's not easy for sure. But the great thing is when you don't see, write down your options. That's what helps you clarify too. And even when you write it down, you still can't see, you definitely still want to go to God. But let's go on to skills and relationships. Now, with a demonstration, usually this is around the easiest way to active listening when it comes to skills. It's not exactly easy to demonstrate skills unless there's something very specific being done, like this call. But active listening, I'm not sure if anybody has struggled with applying active listening in the past. Heather, you have? Okay, so Susanna, have you had trouble in the past applying?
Yes.
Okay. Lauren? Hmm?
I have ADHD, so I definitely, yeah, if I'm, yeah, I definitely struggle.
So when it comes to active listening, it's something I've had to develop over time. I've struggled with this myself, without a doubt, especially being in very manipulative environments. I grew up with 2 narcissistic parents. So you know how that's turned out. But I had to learn as well, communicating with people and through business, the skill of active listening, which is first validating what people are saying, listening to their position, gaining the information and processing it. Don't speak just because something is coming to mind, unless you are already knowing of that experience that they've had, that you already have wisdom in. Yeah, just speak it out and stop them where they're at. But if you have no wisdom in that area, it's not a good idea to do that. An example I'll give when it comes to that, there was an individual, I'm not doing business with them, but at the time when we were planning to put something together, he came to me with this information about how he went to his buddy in mergers and acquisitions who was never in it before, and he went into these industries he never really went into before that he was acquiring, saying, oh yeah, I've been in mergers and acquisitions doing this for, and it averages about 3 to 4 out of 10 successful deals. And I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna take that information, go. So I talked to someone in my network at the time who is an ex-vice president of private equity who did over $1 billion in deals. And he said, you can't generalize how many on average successful deals are going to do in just mergers and acquisitions. Mergers and acquisitions could be also venture capital. It could be private equity. It could be a mix of any of them. So he really can't say that's the case. So on the next call, I called him out. I said, hey, so you told me these points. Well, this is what my network is saying, who has a lot more experience into this because of how you can't average that out. So what your buddy is saying, his numbers are incorrect. Because of what experience he had previously was none, is why he also did not have the success he had. And 3, he went into these specific industries he never was in before, which is also why he had those failures. So you bringing this objection actually is not an objection. It's something where there's no evidence to prove anything of historical accuracy or any kind of skill-based accuracy other than what he jumped into. That was an example for that. When it comes to active listening, you always want to not just validate, which is repeating what they said, but empathizing with them. So it's not like you have to cry with them. I mean, if you feel like you want to cry with them, sure. Don't just like cry with them because they're crying. You want to feel with them, be like, I feel your pain. I know what you're going through. I went through this exact circumstance. And you're going through this. And I get it. It's not easy. But here's what we're able to do right now. So we can start moving from that and doing this. Because it's all based upon not just the delivery and not just the tone, but also the verbiage. And letting them come to you about that information and processing it and taking that information and coming back to them. It could be in that very moment. It could be later. It just depends on what that conversation is about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'm a business coach, so it's what I do all day. I love people. They're my passion and their stories, So
Heather? Cool. Anybody have any questions on that specifically?
no, but this is good. Thank you.
All right, cool. So the last point, so we have about 4 minutes left. We'll cover relationships. This is something I'm going to address when it comes to the relationships. You need to establish boundaries, healthy boundaries. If you don't establish healthy boundaries, it is why you will continuously have the wrong people in your life. That is how you effectively always keep bad influences and anyone who's manipulative. So like, for example, the one thing that's not being spoken of is establishing healthy boundaries with people who are manipulative and eliminating their manipulation and gaslighting. A lot of times it's usually through finance. Like, for example, I had an ex where she said, I really want this item, babe, but it's okay if you don't have the money. I'll just go have my ex get this for me. Excuse me, what? Okay, so I didn't go into that mode. My mode was like, okay, I have to do it because now I feel like I have to. If someone is doing this, whether aggressive or whatever, you're like, okay, if you are wanting to manipulate me into getting you a gift and you are just going to get it no matter what, well, here's what's going to happen. You're not getting the gift at all. It's not happening. Bottom line. You already know where I'm at. You already know where we're at. That's not acceptable. And if you're going to go down that path, you'll never get a gift from me again. So establishing healthy boundaries is absolutely crucial, especially when it comes to gaslighting. When it comes to gaslighting, that's just not a good sign, because what you can do to establish those, collect evidence, collect witnesses. Always make sure people who manipulate and gaslight, you have them in positions where you can collect records on them. When you collect records, you're not going to remember it all the time, but when you remember it, take those into account, bring it back to them when they start gaslighting. Saying, hey, I have it this time. This is what you said. Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, really? Because your text message actually says so. So you're telling me my memory is foggy? You can't deny the text message, can you? So that's a little bit about establishing boundaries. But we do have about 5 minutes left. So any questions I want to cover right now before we head out? So I do have those 7 points. Any questions?
I'm good.
Good. Okay. Perfect. Now, I know we're all feeling it, not just spiritually, of the change that's happening in the world, but from the market research I've done is also something I'm going to apply on the basis of not just from people in my network that I've spoken to. We're seeing a rise of AI and human relevance, dissolution of traditional labels, search for sacred purpose, collapse of routine, virtual overload and physical neglect, and migration and displacement. And I emphasize migration and displacement because it's not just with America. It is a worldwide thing for sure. Now, the key trajectory that's happening here, the industries are resilient, but evolving toward high-tech, high compliance, high barrier ecosystems, favoring large players or niche specialists with capital, human capital strength, and agility. And that kind of information is being separated, and that kind of access is getting separated. And that's why I wanted to do this kind of call, because this kind of call is what those big players are doing. Just we're eliminating the debt side of stuff. But everyone that has enjoyed this and you want to move forward, you will need to read my terms and conditions by Beecham Investments. You will then need to Cash App, Venmo, or PayPal $9.99. And sending an email, I agree, with receipt confirmation, so that way you can move forward, which gives you the access to the weekly calls in there. Now, I do give a 3-day grace period, so you are able to make a decision. So I'm not saying, hey, make a decision right now. No. I want you to take the time in the next 3 days to do such. But if I don't see any answer from someone in the next 3 days, you will be removed from the group. That means then you will then need to read the terms and conditions, as well as I agree, and send the $9.99. However, since there are the 3 of you, you don't have to in a group, but I would like for each of you to get together for at least an hour to help strengthen each other in an area that needs strengthening, that you are strengthened in. That way you are starting something that's being applied immediately, which is a moment of giving and unifying the body and edifying the body.
Is the meeting going to be every Friday night?
I don't have that set in stone right now. I just wanted to do it for this call, just to start. In the future, because I will think of a time, I'll ask you, whoever else wants to move forward, what are also other good times, because I know you, Susanna, this is very late for you. So I definitely need to choose an earlier time and a really good day for everybody. But the great thing is, because this is recorded, that whether you miss one or not, you'll still be able to access that call. Okay? So that way you're always getting that same content.
Okay, thank you.
But the last point I do have is declaring scripture, which is Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 18. I declare in the name of Yeshua, and you shall remember the King, your Elohim, for it is he who gives you power to get wealth, that he may establish his covenant, which he swore to your fathers, as it is this day. The next scripture I have to declare is Proverbs chapter 3, verses 9 through 10. Honor the king with your possessions and with the first fruits of all your increase, so your barns will be filled with plenty, and your vats will overflow with new wine. I have Acts chapter 2, verses 44 through 45. Now all who believed were together and had all things in common, and sold their possessions and goods, and divided them among all, as anyone had need. So continuing daily with one accord in the temple and breaking bread from house to house, they ate their food with gladness and simplicity of heart. That was verse 46, so I just had to add that. And then Acts chapter 4, verses 33 through 35. And with great power the apostles gave witness to the resurrection of the King Yeshua. And great grace was upon them all, nor was there anyone among them who lacked. For all who were possessors of lands or houses sold them, and brought the proceeds of the things that were sold, and laid them at the apostles' feet, and they distributed to each as anyone had need. I seal these declarations and scripture in the blood of Yeshua, and in every realm, age, timeline, dimension, frequency, vibration, sound, energy, planet, cosmos, constellation, universe, past, present, future to infinity, all infinities of infinities and beyond, all eternities of eternities and beyond, all timules that exist, once existed, and could or could not exist, on all sides of creation, everything in between, in all multiverses, from the beginning across eternity, in Shemaim, in the heavens, on Haaretz, and under Haaretz. Aleph Tav. All right, everybody. If you have any other questions, just let me know. You can always let me know over the weekend. And you all have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.